Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Lori. I promise not to mention diabetes more than once or twice. And if I goof, please just stick in blood pressure, cholesterol, stress, weight loss, want to feel better, healthy, okay? Because the newest thing there is out there for being healthy with diabetes, preventing diabetes, is a lot of what I was asked to do today. Rate your plate, okay? You know, there's lots of ideas out there. The most important idea is the one that works for you, okay? What works for your neighbor, what works for your friend, what works for the person across the street, pieces of it may work for you. The whole thing may work for you. But you need to look at it and say, is this really something I can do and I can stick to, and will it be right for me, okay? So there's lots of things to consider when you're in the checkout line at the grocery store going, oh, hey, that says I'm going to be in the bikini by July. Please don't even bother buying it. It didn't come overnight. It ain't leaving overnight either, okay? Don't set yourself up for fail. Also, set yourself up to succeed. It's a work in progress. So if you have one day that's a slip, one day if you have, I just gotta have that, please enjoy it in peace. Put the smiley on your calendar and own it. Because if you eat it and enjoy it and 5 minutes later beat yourself up for it, it totally defeated the whole purpose of, I gotta feel good for some reason. Because sometimes that bite, that flavor, that texture is what you need right then. Now eat the whole bag of it later, we have to talk about some other problems. But enjoy it. In fact, that's one of the things with the mindfulness with eating. I have lots of clients who tell me, if it's open, it's got to be gone. And I'm like, do you still taste it? Think about the last time you wolfed through something. You maybe tasted the first bite, maybe not the second or the fourth, and you got to the last 2 bites and it says, well, that's not worth putting away for tomorrow. You know, when you cook with a plan to eat for a day or 2 off of it, it's a lot of hard work to do them dishes and grocery shop. Cook once, eat 2 or 3 times. Make your own TV dinners, because then you know what went in it. The newest big thing, the food choices, when you're losing, trump exercise. But once you get to your goal, or once you're halfway on your goal, the exercise trumps the diet. That's really scary to think about. The new thing from ADA that came out with their new scientific recommendations for this year was move every 30 minutes. How many of you take about 30 minutes to finally get to what you were looking for on the internet? And then they want you to walk away? At least stand up, move around. You know, if you're not having to run to the bathroom every 30 minutes, make an excuse to just walk up and down the hall. At your job, when you're drinking your water, walk to the farthest water fountain away and come on back. If you're blessed with a set of stairs and your knees will let you do it and your heart and your lungs will let you do it, do a flight of stairs. It's not about fast. The fast will come the more you do it. Okay, a lot of people get in trouble because when we finally get to the February thaw and it's 80, like last year in February we got to 70s, don't try to walk all 10,000 steps in one day unless you're already doing it. Okay, but 10 minutes after each meal is a nice spot. If you're looking for something, a little bit of 30 minutes every day. The moderate intensity is what they found in the diabetes prevention program. That moderate intensity, that's pick it up, make the heart rate run a little bit. And you know your own fitness, you know your own hips and knees and backs. If it's a day the hip and the back and the knees say no, everything we just did in our warm-up, you can do it sitting in a chair. Think about weight training. We don't mean bulk up to Mr. Mrs. Hulk Hogan, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Universe, sorry. Soup cans work. If you've got nothing else in the house, save a water jug, milk jug, the gallons, start with them empty, because it's the motion first that you build the muscle. Then add the water for the weight, because muscle will gobble up sugar longer. Keeps you fuller faster. And there was some really neat, interesting research that showed if you do it outdoors, even if it's just a walk to the mailbox and back, or a sit outside and watch the birds at the bird feeder, it works better being outdoors in the sun and in nature. So, rate your plate. There's lots of ideas out there, but it kind of, you know, the best tool we've got for it is the facts label, nutrition facts label, okay? there's a big difference between portion size is what you put on the plate. Serving size is what they use to fill in the blanks on the label, okay? Lots of things to consider. Fats and how, out of all the calories, how many came from fat? Out of the total fat, what's its mix? What's it's made up from? Salt is a big piece of our puzzle too. And you thought I'd only talk about the sugar. Look, I don't even have sugar listed here. Because if you've been looking at the sugar line that's underneath the fiber, my challenge to you this week is move up 2 lines and look at total carbs. Total carbs is the total story of everything that went into that food serving. Only for the serving size, not what you put on your plate. Okay? And protein. A lot of times the protein gets overlooked or it gets way overemphasized. Once again, you got to know your health, what's going on for you. The ingredient list. This is the hardest thing to find lots of good information on for slides. But that's another place to look. If you're always looking at the labels and you're kind of bored with the nutrition part, take a look at the ingredient list. Does it have what I want in it? Now granted, some of the chemistry lesson in there where you want a chemistry book, it's just the fancy name for vitamin B12. Might be the fancy name for a B6 vitamin. You know, look it up. A lot of times it's okay. It's just the fancy name for what we would have called flour. It has a bunch of different fancy names. Old label, the one we're used to seeing on everything now. Serving size is kind of hidden up there at the very, very top. How many people have you run across that said, hey, there's only 3 grams of fat in the whole box?
Oh.
Yeah. We've all done it. Haven't you ever picked up a small something that you can down or finish at one meal and then look at the label and it has the nerve to say 2? How about the 2.5? Come on. Either shave a little out of that or add the rest and make it even. Vitamins and minerals are on there. You know, every single thing we eat, our body's going to turn it into some fat. It's going to turn it into some protein, wherever proteins went. It's going to turn it into carbs. It's also going to turn it into the vitamins and minerals that we need. Our body needs vitamins and minerals right along with water. That percent of daily values down the side is if you wanted to do a 2,000 calorie diet with 60% of your day coming from carbs. Some people that works, some people that's not what you want. So don't use this as the, okay, if I ate 1 cup of this, well, let's face it, you might eat the whole container, so I got 10% of my fat for the day. That might not be what you want for 10% of your fat for the day if you're not doing that 2,000 calorie diet. The nice thing to use with these percents is 5% or less is considered low. So this was low till I ate both servings, right? 20% or more is considered high. So if you're kind of looking at the, like sodium for this thing is 300 milligrams. Yeah, that's a little high. And it's there, it's in the middle of the road. It's higher than my 5, it's less than my 20. So if you're on a low salt diet or wanting to cut back on your salt, you're hoping for like 140 milligrams in the serving size listed. New food labels are coming. Has anyone noticed a new food label on any of their old favorite foods? So the big difference here is you will notice that in the calories, they took out that sentence that said calories from fat. Lots of people were adding those two together. You know, if it said calories 120, calories from fat 20. That meant 20 of that 120 came from fat. So in the new label, they left it off. They made the calories nice and big. They made the serving size a little more prominent. They're still hiding how many servings they think are in that container. So if you happen to eat this entire container, even if it took all day to do it, you ate 8 times. So when you get to the numbers, at the end of your day, you multiply them by 8, and that goes to your total for the whole day. Some of the other fun new science is it doesn't matter where in the 24 hours you eat your calories. If you're aiming for 1,500, you've got from midnight to midnight to do it. And our problem is we usually eat half of the next days in that late night if we waited too long to eat. Have you ever waited too long? You're so hungry that anything on the counter looks good, and 2 minutes in the microwave for last night's leftovers is too long. That you waited too long. Your body needed gas in the gas tank sooner than that. The percent of daily values is still here. This is a handout that you can read at your leisure, and there's more tips on the back. Once again, there's that 20% or higher for a high value, the 5% or less in that percent of daily values. You want to try to get stuff with fiber. Your whole grains, go for the whole grains when you can. Your slice of bread, I don't care if it's diet, does it have any fiber in it? The whole point you're eating grain group is for fiber, okay? And there's some of the bread on the shelf, it's the blackest bread on the shelf. It doesn't have any fiber in it. You think you're doing a good thing because you went for the dark bread. Read the label and make sure it's really what you're paying for, especially if you're paying extra. Now, the one new thing that's different with the new food labels coming out when you start to see them, there's total sugar like there was on the other one, and then they're adding a line that says how much of that total sugar out of that total carb came from added above and beyond what naturally occurred in it. Okay? So that's going to be the confusing line. Don't add those two together into the total carb. Total carb is the total toll. The fiber, the sugar, and the added sugar is parts of that grand total. So size matters. I hate to say it, in food, size matters. Your plate size matters. How big is your hand? And even if all you've got is your hands and you don't have your handy dandy measuring cups with you, size matters. I mean, let's face it, this thing is like 80 cents. So dollar-wise, hey, that sounds great. Then you're going to come see me for diabetes in about 10 or 15 years, you know, and wonder why. Because it's wearing out the system. Just because it's 89 cents doesn't mean it's good for you. Unless you're going to share that with like 10 people. You know, let's face it, if you're going to share it with 10 or 15 people and it was 89 cents, that works. Because remember, when we were kids, you didn't all have your own bottle of pop. That one 8-ounce bottle or 10-ounce bottle got shared by 4 or 5 people. And you didn't have pop unless you had company, right?
Right.
It wasn't every Saturday, or it was Saturday night with pizza or something, you know. So, and if you have low blood sugar, you only need 1/4 of this can to raise your blood sugar 50 points. You know, and if you wait till your blood sugar is too low, it's very hard to stop at 4 ounces. So we always have our hands with us. And I've been doing this for a while, and I you know, a woman's hand, usually your cupped hand's about a 1/2 cup. Your whole hand together is about a cup. Guys' hands, it might be about a 1.5 cups for 2 hands together. That works. A fist. Women's fist is about 1 cup. Guy's fist is about a 1.5 cups. You know, because every time I have a guy and we're trying it with the wife, you know, the wife's hand fits in there just nice, and we all look at him and go, we want your hand, because it's only 3 fingers fit in the cup. Look at the portions. Even in the hospital, when we give you a carb-controlled menu, some of those servings don't match what the book says. Or if you're using an app to look it up. Look it up. It's fun. And when you're sick of looking up at carbs, look at salt. Look at fat. Look at the protein. Change it up, because it does get old fast. But easy way for a meal plan, and I'm going to jump ahead on my slides, so I'm going to stop. But your fist is about a cup. Serving size of meat. This is the read it and weep, and all men hate me at this one. Most people hate me at this one. The palm of your hand is all you need at one meal. Women only need 6 ounces of meat in a day. Guys only need 8. Generally speaking, there are reasons to go higher, lower, or your personal food plan that you're following at the time. There are reasons around it. The tip of your thumb, the whole thumb, from the base of your thumb to the tip is a tablespoon. A teaspoon, if you're kind of trying to guess how much honey did I just put in my coffee or tea, the tip of your thumb is about a teaspoon, give or take a little bit. So, easy way with a plate plan. First is, what size is your plate? And I forgot to grab my big plate at home. But we're looking for, you know, most of our plates are 12 inches. You know, try moving down to a 9. Try moving down to a 7. Maybe not the 7, it might not be enough food. But when you have the small plate, and you put my adorable little piece of meat on here, and my adorable, unfortunately I grabbed pasta, I apologize. That was for another point. But it's on a little plate. You see a full plate, you see a full tummy. It tricks your brain. You know, since I have the pasta plate up here. Also, different colors. If you put red on red, you're going to put 1/3 more on that plate unless you're using the measuring cups. If you put a white on red, you're going to put 1/3 less, because your brain can see the edges. Okay? And yes, it takes 4 of these to be full-on pasta, because guess what? As soon as it hits your system, it's dissolving. There's no protein in this to make it stick to your ribs. There's a lot of fat if you poured oil or butter, yes. And where did that? Oh, it's fun losing the clicker in the bottom of the bag. So that's where we go. Oh, I'm sorry, it flipped back. Do you guys still remember that incandescent light bulb?
Yeah.
I wish I knew what wattage that was so I could save one and tape it so it won't break. But 4 dice is cheese. That's 1 ounce of cheese. So if you've got a block of cheese, that ounce ends up being like the length of your thumb to the tip of your thumb. Tennis ball, baseball, if you're a baseball person. Tennis ball is close enough for an estimate. And this is the size of your fruit. You know, whenever you can, eat the fruit, skip the juice. If even if it's 100%, nobody told you that it's 4 ounces. It's the same sugar spike as the apple, but the liquid goes fast, the apple goes slow. The other fun part with fruits and vegetables, how many of you have bought them, said I'll get to cleaning them, and after you put the groceries away, you don't get to cleaning them because you're tired? And I can't tell you how many times they've turned into the science experiment at home. Sometimes it is well worth the extra $1 to buy them already cut and ready to go, because if they're up front, ready to go, you're going to grab those first. Here's the other way we can do our plate. You want to fill about half of it with non-starchy veggies, 1/4 of it with a starch of some sort or a grain group, the whole grains, a little bit of that meat. See, that fills up that plate pretty good. If the lines weren't there, you wouldn't kind of notice how we split that up. So if you think about your hands, we want fingers for the fiber for the starchy veggies, non-starchy veggies. 1 hand for the meat, 1 hand for the starch part. And then if you want a dessert, that size of the palm of your hand fits in your palm. And then if you want milk, 8 ounces of milk is about your fist upright. Just if you're kind of trying to guess. Best is to measure. This is the government's plan. Look at this. They spared you some of them non-starchy veggies that people don't care for too much of. A little bit of grain. Sometimes there's a little more grain in here than you want. Once again, it's your personal meal plan. What does it work? If you're always eating the same way and you're not getting the results, then change it. 1 spoonful, 1/2 cup of something less or more can make a huge difference in your results. So building blocks, we talked about carbs and proteins and fats and water. And if you sit there and say, I can't stand water, then put some lemons in it. Put some oranges in it. Put a slice of pineapple in it. Buy the frozen mixed fruit when it's on sale. Take a scoop, smush it up, let it sit in the bottom of the jug overnight. Now you know what flavored it. But water is actually the best. Coffee and tea work. It's what you stick in it that counts. So if you got 1 or 2 pieces of lemon in here, you don't have to rack your brain and go, oh my gosh, how do I count the 1/2 gram of carb from that one little slice? Don't worry about it. You know, be environmentally friendly. Buy the Brita filter if you can't stand the taste of your water. Chlorine water, if you just let it sit out in the air, you know, in a bowl, in a jug, a day later, it's okay. A couple hours later, it's okay. And then you don't have all that plastic that's not doing anything. Be careful with the fats, because a little goes a long way. You know, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. That's why we watch. That's why the diabetes prevention program focused on cutting back on fats just a little bit. There's lots of fats, and the cholesterol that was in your quiz today, there's vitamins A, D, E, and K in it. We worry about it because this is what it's doing. It's turning your 4-lane highway blood vessels down to 3s or 2s or 1s. And then we do something stressful like get high blood pressure or high blood sugar, and that 1 lane now becomes a 1/2 lane and causes damage. And it's damage over time. You know, that's the hard part. Certain fats harden things up. Please tell me I brought that. No, I didn't. I left them up there. So I have a hard piece of plastic up there to kind of represent what those higher fat meals do. High blood sugar, blood pressure. So this is available from the government, our tax dollars at work. The study proved good. This is only for losing 5 to 10% of your starting weight. So that's why it is you start with your starting weight, which puts me in this group. So that means I'm aiming for 42 grams of fat in a day. If you're not careful, you can spend all 42 grams of fat in 1 meal. Just be careful. Buyer beware kind of thing. Okay? Watch out for things that have hydrogenated oil or partially hydrogenated oil, because the front of the labels, you know, can say anything they want. The proof and the truth is in the ingredient list and your food label, you know, the nutrition information. Shaking the salt habit. How many people just shake before they even taste it? If you got one of those in your house, don't cook with salt. You don't have to. When you're buying, hey, if you're looking at one brand of green beans in the freezer section and there's another brand right beside it, pick both up. They should hopefully both tell you that the serving size is the same. So that's another trick of the trade on food labels. All the carbs, fats, salt might be the same. Check out those serving size. Sometimes they'll tell you half a cup on one and a cup and a half on the other one. So be careful. I have a sheet with other ideas for herbs and spices and what goes with meats and not. Watch out for the salt on the labels. Try to cut back. It says here from whatever this was from American Heart last year that 6% of the salt in our day comes from what we add at the table, and 5% is added when we cook. And 77% of the salt we get in a day, if we're not careful, if you're being careful, then these numbers will be much better, comes from how it was made before you even touched it. And then there's lots of carbs. Even in the non-starchy veggies, when you eat enough of them, there's a carb to count. So I have to remember the people that are only eating certain veggies and eating half the plate of meat, that by the time you eat my 3 cups of vegetables, you've got to the carbs to keep your muscles going while you go. So we're okay. There's also some not so great carbs, but it's all things in moderation. So if you wanted a carb count, that's this slide. Women and men, the lower end. For women, 45 is our middle of the road. 30 to 45 is weight loss, 45 to 60 grams of carbs at a meal, that's each meal. And then if you're very, very active, you need more to supply the muscle that you're doing. Men, because you've got more muscle, you get to have more carbs because your muscles need the sugar to function. They need the sugar to bulk up and build for you too if you're trying to bulk. So that's 45 to 60 at a meal. A serving is whatever it took to be 15 grams of carbs, if you were wondering. And there's our lovely deck of cards, slice of meat. Even if you did 3 ounces at every meal, you'd still be okay and you'd feel full and satisfied. Be careful about how it was prepared. Some things are very high in fat. And maybe you don't like it, or maybe you love it, but I don't know about you, but I'm not wasting any of my calories for fat on hollandaise sauce. I'd rather have it on the butter on my carrots or my salad dressing. You know, choose where you spend it, really. Just choose where you spend it. Choose the leanest meat you can, because while you cook it, it's going to get some more added to it. So this is why we worry about balance. If you only ate carbs, sugar goes up fast, sugar drops fast. Have some protein, have some fat to balance it out. So the more balanced your plate is, the more the foods buffer each other to give you a more balanced response to your meal. So if you eat a meal and about 2-3 hours later you're hungry, have a glass of water. It was probably more salt than your body wanted, unless you were really cutting back and using the small. But eat a lot of healthy foods. The variety is huge. You get more vitamins and minerals that way, because each food's got a reason for being. Take time to look at what works and what doesn't. Take time to just say, hey, this week I'm going to keep a log. Or keep a record of three nice things, good things. You know, we always forget to think about some positives to be refreshing. And keep a record so that a year from now when you're like, oh, I can't believe I'm still struggling with this, you go back and go, geez, I used to struggle even more. If you were looking for blood sugar targets before meals, 80 to 130 is the goal, not the 90 that's up there. Less than 180, 2 hours after a meal is your target sugar-wise. Get your sleep. That's your hugest thing. We don't always get a good rest. If you're smoking, quit. Have somebody help you figure out all of the stresses in life. Take care of your feet. You get a blister, you're not walking. And be careful of the salt. And take time to be outdoors, even in the winter. Find something fun and relaxing. Take that moment for the cup of tea. You have a healthcare team. You're not alone out there. And if you want more nuts and bolts and goodies, I got free classes next week. Friends and family are welcome. Anyone is welcome to come. We're over in the solarium at the 5th floor of the hospital, though, not over here. Saturday, you've got those in your list. And I think that was it. Any questions?
Lori, will you be here afterwards? So
Yeah.
if you have individual questions, maybe that Lori can answer, that would be.
And I brought the blood sugars check. If you're interested and just wondering what your blood sugar is, it's always good to know at different times in the day.